Hello, I'm Alex Scott. Alongside me for this debate, this talk, is Lianne Sanderson, Nedum Onuoha and Fara Williams. We've got a vast array of experienced players that have played in the WSL. Nedum, you have been across it from day dot, so you know what we are going to be talking about when we're looking at this list of top 50 players. But I think my first part that I want to get into is when we look at the WSL players that are making a big jump this year from, 14 players made the top 20 last year. I think we've gone from 14 to 20 now in this top 50. Why do you think that is, Lianne?
I think the more visibility. I think now everybody is able to make their own opinions on the individual players. You know, television rights, radio rights, people can watch the games before. Back in our day, how it was like, you know, one game a year was on the television and people would choose that goal scorer. Whereas now I think the WSL is progressing. Obviously, I work in the NWSL as well, so I have that luxury, but I think it's a positive thing for sure.
Nedum?
Yeah, I think that is fair. The visibility is key, and I think there's a demand for players to be coming over. Seeing the likes of Caldente and others making their way over to the WSL, I think it's a huge deal. I think when you see some of the fees of players coming over as well, you can show that the league is a serious business. And when you come over, there's not even a guarantee to be successful based on the players that you have. So I think that competition and that drive to essentially try and be the best, for me, it's one of the reasons why it's got some of the best players in it as well.
Do you think also, Farah, there's a draw for players looking at it and, I don't know, like a team like Arsenal that are selling out or filling out the Emirates week on week now?
Yeah, exactly. I think our league seems to be a lot more competitive than it has been in recent years, hence why we can attract so much more higher calibre of players. As you mentioned there, Arsenal setting the trend again, I guess, with the stadium sellouts, and that's an attraction for any player, certainly in the female game, that haven't been used to that in the past. But I think the success of that as well, Arsenal, Champions League winners, so it's not a surprise that, you know, there's 20 players from the WSL now when they get to the Champions League final and win it against the best team in Europe, in my opinion, and also Chelsea get to the semi-final. So there are teams in the WSL that are competing on the very top level, which, you know, we draw the best players, and so those players are going to be rated higher depending on how far they go in competition.
Lianne, I feel like there's this continued debate comparing the WSL to the NWSL league. Which one's better? I know when we were playing, the draw was, oh my gosh, if you go and play in America, that is the best league. But how do you think it's viewed now from Europe looking at that league?
Yeah, I mean, I think when you look at the list, that just about speaks true. I still don't think there's enough respect put on the NWSL's name.
Why is
to
that?
be honest, the individuals. I don't know the answer, Al, to be honest, because when you look at the FIFA's best that come out, there's not one US women's national team player in that 11. How can that be? They're the best team in the world. They're ranked #1. So I think the more we talk about it, the more people start to see, because there are fantastic players in the NWSL. You know, Temo Shawinga, Barbara Banda, the list could go on. And I think, you know, I get asked this question every single day, which league is better? And I don't sit on the fence, you know what I'm like. But I wish we could merge the two. So I think the fan experience, apart from Arsenal in the WSL, is fantastic. You look at the other teams, I don't think it's the same as a game like San Diego Wave at Snapdragon or in LA. You know what it's like, tailgating, the whole fanfare is amazing. And I'm looking forward to the Champions Cup because I want to see, you know, a Gotham playing against an Arsenal in season, not just in pre-season.
On that, you know, I've not played in NWSL, so I wouldn't know, but from players that I speak to that have had those experiences, the leagues are so different. And it's, again, a style thing, isn't it? And what your preference is in terms of what you like to watch. It's probably a more technical game in the WSL, and then I hear it's a transitional game in NWSL, and I could be wrong, but that's the feedback I've had in the past. So,
well, right.
And also, you think of America and the national team players, it's every 4 years they get that exposure. English players or teams in the English leagues and across Europe are every 2 years in a tournament, Euros and World Cup, so they get more exposure from that.
Do you know, I thought as well, not too long ago, I feel like it was quite important for a US women's national team player to be playing in the NWSL. Yeah. Would you say that's still the case now?
It is, but the salary cap is the biggest topic of conversation at this moment in time. You know, the Trinity Rodman stuff going on. There's talk about her coming to Europe, but, like, the NWSL have to change the salary cap because otherwise they will lose all their best players. Alyssa Thompson, Naomi Girma, Trinity Rodman might be the next. And I know there's a lot of ongoing conversations about that right now because players don't just go where the money is, but obviously, as we've seen in the WSL, you know, the facilities are getting better, the training facilities, everything. I mean, I played in America for 15 years. It was the best decision I ever made. But that doesn't mean I loved my time at Arsenal as well, so...
But then are you thinking of, like, competitions like the Champions League and the draw of that as well?
Yeah, I think that can be motivated, but it just depends on your perspective, because you could argue that, say, for example, somebody playing in Europe or playing, say, in Spain, for example, their domestic league could be everything to them. So the Champions League itself, although these nights are amazing, you know, and we want to watch and you want to see every part of it, it's not necessarily part of everybody's history as such and everybody's desire to go and do it. I think, as Lianne said, people are motivated by different things and different reasons. It's not always about the money. It's not necessarily always about the history of a competition or history of a team in particular. But ultimately, like, you go to a place where you feel you can play your best football and enjoy football as well.
I do feel, though, the American players, you know, the whole carrot of the Champions League now is a big teaser for them. They're intrigued by it. We've started to see some of their US national team players now in the WSL, and they'll be sharing those experiences when they go back into camp. And I do think it's a massive carrot.
Emma Hayes as well,
the best in
I
Europe.
think.
Of course, because Emma wants her teams to understand European football, which is a lot different to American football, American soccer, however you want to call it. But they're so different. And knowing Emma, the way that she likes to play, and she likes her players to know the game and be able to... not manage the game is the wrong word I'm looking for. Problem solve and change within game. That's the type of manager I know Emma to be. So the Americans are used to that transitional, fast, being fitter than everybody else. The WSL is different to that.
Yeah. I will say, though, I think the NWSL is the only league. You know what it's like. You come first, no one really cares. Gotham just won the whole championship and they finished 8th. So, like, I think the consistency throughout the league is more competitive, 100%, because I find in the WSL, it will have to take kind of like a miracle for the bottom team to beat number one, wouldn't it, really?
Yeah.
Liverpool to beat like a Man City or something. You have to... Happened the other week where Chelsea lost, but that's the first time it's ever happened in 2 years.
Do you think some of that, though, is to do with the fact that it's one-off? Because, say, Kansas City Current were the best side in the league. They were essentially record breakers, weren't they? But when it comes down to one individual game, you know, that's when things can change a little bit. Do you think that would be the case if, say, we brought over that sort of method into WSL?
Yes, but I think it would be difficult to bring that to England because Europe.
I wouldn't like it.
Of course,
Good one, Nedum, but you know that was never what you're throwing out there. We're going to steer away from that one because actually when you cast your eye over the list that we have in front of us, do you think there's a player on there that should be higher?
I think there's many on there, to be honest, but seeing as we're picking one, I have to go with Bunny Shaw. You know, she's 26 on this list, and this is a player that I think doesn't get anywhere near... I don't know what it is about some City players, but they just don't get the recognition they deserve. And for someone like Bunny Shaw, 100 goals, you know, similar to Erling Haaland getting 100 goals the other week as well, 4 at the weekend against Aston Villa. What more can she do? And I feel like she's never really in the running for a Ballon d'Or or a FIFA's best. It's really strange.
Yeah, I would agree, and I think with Bunny Shaw as well. So she was joint top scorer last year, but that doesn't really get spoken about properly, and she was top scorer the year before as well. So if you're the top scorer in what we think is one of the best leagues, if not the best league in the world, how would that put you at, say, mid-20s on this particular list?
Can I throw in on that? Is that because Manchester City haven't been successful in the WSL and in Europe? And what I'm saying is that the further you go in competitions, the more recognised you get. Right? And I feel like that might be holding her back a little bit because actually in the WSL, you talk about her numbers, they're incredible. They are really incredible. For the amount of games she's played to goal ratio is crazy numbers. But Manchester City don't qualify for the Champions League. There's no exposure there. They don't finish top of the league in the WSL. No exposure there. They haven't won the FA Cup in however many years. So they don't win domestic cups.
And national team.
And the national team aren't, you know, the ranking in the national... You don't get that exposure.
Well, you say you don't get that exposure, but I think somebody that scores ends up being the first female player to score 100 goals for Man City. Like, that's a huge accolade in itself.
Absolutely.
And as I said, even from the individual standpoint, we're talking about somebody who has been top scorer in the division.
But when you look at the players that are in that top 20, and I looked at it and I was like, how are these players... Bunny Shaw being one of them, there's a lot on the list from 30 down to 50, right? I'm like, how are they not in the top 20? And then you look at 20 up, and the players that are in it, they've been successful, whether it be at club or international. So how do you argue that these ones below, who probably haven't been successful at club or country,
but it
that should be above?
How you measure success,
They measure,
right?
They measure trophies, most people, over the years. If we talk about football, at the end of the day, who are the best in the Premier League? We're going to say Liverpool for last year.
Just throw a complete curveball.
Go on, you
I know
do
it's a
that.
different position.
I love it.
Delphine Cascarino.
Make sure it hits me.
Delphine Cascarino's in at number 18. And what's the level of success that you're talking about there?
And she's been at San Diego Wave now for a couple of seasons. And
I didn't see that.
She's a top player.
Yeah, that's what I mean.
She's a
not to put her out.
Farah, don't worry, you keep looking at the list. I'm going to help you out because...
Erin Cuthbert has a... I mean, you talk about Bunny Shaw, but when you talk about Erin Cuthbert at 46, and the success, like, take her out of the Chelsea team, they're a completely different team. And she, being a Scotland international, don't get recognised because of that, I believe. So it's equally...
My problem with some of these lists is the fact that...
That curveball hit me hard.
Yeah, I know, I think the problem with some of these lists is that it's very hard to sort of give someone else credit that they deserve without taking it away from somebody else.
Yeah.
You know, in that moment, I mentioned Cascarino. She doesn't deserve
balanced it
that.
off, yeah.
She doesn't deserve that. But I think, for me, Bunny Shaw should be higher.
I think, Nedum, that is a great point. And as you can see, this is a heated debate. So we're going to take a moment. We're going to cool down, but we are going to be back.